very pleased tonight to have a very special guest. Yes. Sheriff John Urquhart, King County Sheriff, so if you want to come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. Liz, thank you for making the arrangements. And thank you, especially in the group, for your kind comments about Steve Cox. Those are big shoes to fill, Julian. It ain't gonna happen, so just do the best you can. It's always nice to be reminded what Steve meant to the community. Steve, of course, as most of you know, I worked out of this precinct for many, many years. Steve was a peer officer of mine, and when I became a sergeant, I supervised Steve. I knew he was up here. I worked with him in the storefront, and it's good to remember what he brought to the community. He was a very, very special person, and I'm glad that he is still remembered, so thank you very much. I'll just talk for a few minutes tonight. It's been several months since I've been out here. I'll talk a little bit about our budget. I'll talk about marijuana. I'll talk about what's going on in the community vis-a-vis the sheriff's office. So the budget. Luckily, well, unluckily, county has no money. Ask Dow Constantine, ask the county council, they don't have any money. Probably pretty much true, and it's not going to change. That means we pretty much, the sheriff's office has to fight for what we get or try to keep from being cut. What I've always said is I'm not going to fight with the social service agencies for those dollars. They are just as important as we are keeping the community safe, making a better community. That being said, we've gone to a 2-year budget cycle now for the first time. So our budget now is for 2015 and 2016, and we were cut by pretty close to $4 million. I was able to take those cuts without sacrificing any commissioned police officer positions. So we didn't lose any. I didn't expect to gain any either, but pretty much in the 11th hour, Councilmember Kathy Lambert, who is one of 2 council members that represent almost nothing but unincorporated King County, or at least big areas of King County. Kathy Lambert came to me and said, if I could get you a couple of positions, what do you want? And I immediately said, I wanted to restore the domestic violence unit. Domestic violence detectives that can investigate, do follow-up investigations on domestic violence crimes. Those crimes are so important. We still do domestic violence follow-ups with general purpose detectives. Detectives they come in the morning and they may investigate a malicious mischief, vandalism, shoplift, burglary, car theft, whatever. They don't have the expertise, they don't have the training, they don't have the time to put into a domestic violence investigation. Well, why are these investigations so important? The more people we can convict of domestic violence, the less guns we are going to have out there. Because under federal law, if you have a misdemeanor conviction for domestic violence, you're not allowed to possess a handgun or ammunition for the rest of your life. This has nothing to do with gun control, but it make sure that that particular suspect is not going to get a gun, because a domestic violence suspect is more likely than any other suspect for any other crime, more likely to go on to commit a crime of violence in the future, including homicide. Very, very, very important. Plus, we've got the victims. We've got victims, their lives have been put into turmoil. And sometimes, for a lot of reasons, they don't want to cooperate with that investigation. Many, many, many reasons for that. When we have a dedicated detective that can do the follow-up, that can get the medical records, that can get the 911 tape, that can work with that victim, oftentimes we'll get uncooperative victims to cooperate, or we'll be able to work with the prosecutor's office and get a victimless prosecution to convict that suspect that needs to be convicted, that needs that no contact order, that victim that really needs that protection order. So this is an important unit. So I got funding for 2 detectives and a community service officer. And this will be only for unincorporated King County. So that will directly affect this area of King County. Very, very pleased to get that back. That's all I got, but didn't lose any deputies. On January 1st of 2014, the Sheriff's Office had 26 vacancies. 26 patrol officer vacancies that we had not been able to fill. We worked real hard to identify where the logjam was. Part of it was at the academy, because it's difficult to get spots at the academy, but I know somebody down there. Surar. So we were able to eliminate that roadblock. As of December 1st, we are up by 4 positions. That's 4 positions, that's from negative 26 to plus 4. In other words, 4 positions I don't have funding for. I'll figure out a way to make that work. Now, what does that mean? That means in a year, when they get out of the academy, when we get them trained up, they'll be out working the street. So we should be able to increase unincorporated staffing in White Center, for example, and other parts of King County, where we've just been clawing our way around for a long, long time because we haven't had the staffing. So that's a real improvement. The other thing that we're working on is recruiting. I have a white male police department right now. Not totally, but look around you. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not good. I cannot have a successful police department unless I mirror the community. We have to do that. But it's difficult. It's difficult recruitment. If you come out of the military, for example, and right now there are more white males in the military than there have been in the past. Used to be African Americans in the military, but with when they did away with the draft, times have changed. When you come out of the military, and there's a lot of people coming out right now with the war wind down, you get an extra 10% on that civil service test. That means if you scored 90, you get an extra 10%. Now your score is up to 99, and I have to hire off that list. If you have to be a citizen, so that means somebody from Somalia or Africa that are not a citizen, I can't hire them. So I'm hiring an awful lot of white male military people. Military is great, but I don't want an entire police department full of ex-military people either. So I went to and that's all state law, by the way. So I went to the county human resources people, and I got them to agree to change the King County civil service rules. So now if you speak a second language, or if you've served 2 years in the Peace Corps, you get an extra 10% on your civil service test. That'll help you compete better with the military guys. Now that's not going to change things overnight, but over the long haul that will change things. We'll get more people that speak a second language. That's going to help us immensely be a better reflection on the community. Nobody certainly in the Northwest, maybe anywhere in the country, has done that. So I'm very proud of that. That's a great change. Now we also have to do the best we can recruiting from communities of color, and we have to recruit more women. Police work is still a profession that women don't naturally gravitate to. And boy, we need more women. I'd much rather go to a dangerous call with a woman partner than one of these guys here, quite frankly. Because I've had more women police officers get me out of trouble, especially when my mouth starts running, than a male partner. So we need more women. Just makes, again, for a better police department. So we're working on it. We're doing better recruiting, more targeted recruiting as best we can. Marijuana. Somebody mentioned medical marijuana. You may know that I supported Initiative 502, the legalization of recreational marijuana. Did that for a couple of reasons. First of all, the war on drugs hasn't worked. Secondly, I think that's what King County wanted, and they did. They passed 502, 63%. And we've incarcerated with our failed war on drugs an entire generation of people, mostly African Americans. That's not right. We have to try something different. Now, I get a lot of pushback from other police chiefs, other sheriffs, about my stance on marijuana. I get pushback, I get no suggestions. Nobody comes up with a better idea, any ideas other than the status quo. War on drugs hasn't worked, let's try something different, that's what we're doing. However, 502, recreational marijuana, did nothing for medical marijuana, didn't change that a bit. Medical marijuana in the state of Washington is the wild, wild west. There's no rules, there's no prosecution, there's nothing that works. So right now I'm working with Senator Jeannie Cole-Wells to come up with legislation that she's going to introduce in the next session of the legislature that effectively will phase out medical marijuana almost entirely. There will be no medical marijuana stores at all. If you need medical marijuana, essentially, a few exceptions, you go to a recreational marijuana store. I think that's going to help immensely in our neighborhoods. So that's something we're working on. She's working on it very, very hard, but it's going to take a change in state law to make that happen. Finally, it's a tough time right now for police departments. It's a tough time for the community. You don't have to look any farther than what happened in Ferguson, what's happening in New York City, and the protests and the riots, if you will, in downtown Seattle, all across the country. My challenge for all of my officers here, our challenge is to maintain the trust of the community. And in some cases, to regain the trust of the community. And that's our job, but it's the community's job as well. Primarily, I think it's our job. How do we maintain, regain that trust? And what I tell my people day in and day out is one simple little thing. Get out of your patrol car. Park your patrol car, walk around. The biggest impediment to us engaging with the community, letting the community know that we're not the bad guys, that we're just like you are, only with guns. We're not the bad guy. And how do I get my officers, my deputies, to understand that you're not, the community's not the bad guy either? Just like any other human interaction, is by talking to people. Talking to people. The best police work that was ever done, in my opinion, was when you had a beat cop that could walk down the street, and that beat cop knew everybody in that neighborhood. He knew the bad guys, he knew the good guys, and the good guys would give him information. We don't have many beat cops anymore. Deputy Shivington is the closest thing we have to a beat cop. And Deputy Andrews up in Skyway. And Steve Cox was the equivalent of a beat cop, because everybody knew him, and he knew everybody, and he knew the neighborhood. The only way we are going to have the trust of the community is for us to park that car in an apartment complex, in a business district, and get out and talk to people. And I just beat my guys and women over the head to make them do that. But it's a cultural change for us. Now we drive around in our air-conditioned offices, and we've got the internet at our fingertips. We've got a computer there. We don't even have to go to the fire station to make a phone call anymore like we used to when I was pushing around a patrol car. If we ever figure out a way to how to put a bathroom in a patrol car, we'll never come to the fire station or do anything. Hopefully that won't happen. But that's what I tell my people on a regular basis. And until that happens, we're going to have these problems. So, what questions can I answer for y'all? Yes, sir.
Medical marijuana.
Yes.
As you know, we're in unincorporated King County. We're between two cities. And with the latest judge's ruling as of today, I understand, there's 4 community states now outlawed marijuana sales within their borders. So that leaves us wide open here, because basically we have a county government that probably is not going to outlaw it here.
Mm-hmm.
And also...
And that would be for recreational marijuana.
Recreation.
Yeah, 502 marijuana, right.
Yeah, because right now, outside of the county having a temporary 6-month ban, we can have, within 6 months, we can have medical marijuana all over the place again. Mm-hmm. As you said, it's not regulated. My understanding, I'm not sure this is the same, Judy Cole-Wells, I thought I read in the paper that one of the things that she had in her bill was to allow unlimited number of not medical, but recreational marijuana outlets. And that would be disaster for this community.
She doesn't have a bill yet. She's got some talking points, and that is one of her talking points. And what I told her is, that would be a disaster. Don't do that. Don't do that. Right now, the Washington State Liquor Control Board can control the number of outlets in the state of Washington. If they see at some point, and it's way too early to tell, if they see at some point in time that the demand is exceeding the supply on the stores, they can increase the number of stores. That's the way to do it. Yeah. I don't agree, and I will fight her as far as an unlimited number of stores.
What about, I read that she was proposing a 500-foot rule instead of the 1,000 in terms of parks and schools and all that?
That's correct as well.
I don't
This
think
needs fine tuning,
that's the-
this needs
oh,
fine tuning, trust me.
You're gonna
Yeah.
work on that part of it?
Yes.
Thank you, okay.
And I think there may be, she's also talking about 750 feet. She's also talking about letting the local entity decide whether it's 500 or 1,000. So it's still kind of up in the air.
So this bill would eliminate all the medical
Yes.
dispensaries?
Yeah, over about a 2-year period. There would absolutely be no collective gardens, no dispensaries. You go to a medical marijuana store, there will be a way to buy certain strains of marijuana without the taxes if you need medical marijuana. The other thing it would do, it would allow up to a 6-plant grow in people's houses. So, which I personally don't have a whole big problem with. You can make beer, you can make wine, let them grow.
Yes.
Up to 6 plants. It's gonna make a much easier job for us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're legal. 7, no. We can't count past 10. So.
One of the issues that has come up with the medical marijuana in particular over the last few years is that it's a low priority for law enforcement, and so it comes under the civil, is there a code violation or something? And one of the things that we found, and I was talking with Santo Domingo, who's the county rep in this area, and he said he's run into it as well, is that the county departments don't work together, and sometimes even the people in the departments don't, there isn't a broad vision of how everything fits together, or even the different departments working together to help each other so that there can, like, we have a restaurant next to a medical marijuana collective, and it's had a negative effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there so as an alternative to the war on drugs, I guess my alternative would be, is there a way that for public safety, the King County Sheriff's Office can work with the public health, can work with code enforcement, can work with all these different units so that there's just, it's, a one-stop shop for citizens in a community, rather than, well, you have to call that person, no, that won't work, we're not doing that right now, you have to call that person.
I think we do, part of community policing, everybody's heard the term community policing. And I've got 4 deputies here, counting myself. Each one of us would give a different definition of what community policing is, because it's such a nebulous term. What we should be talking about is problem-solving policing. Identify a problem and figure out a way to solve it. One of the ways you solve that problem is working with other King County, other government agencies, because we can't do everything, just like they can't do everything. And I think we do a pretty good job of that, just in general, of working with other agencies. That doesn't necessarily mean they work with us. That being said, medical marijuana is a high priority for us, not a low priority. Problem is, there's no law that we can enforce, that the prosecutor will prosecute on.
Right.
They tried to change state law, they did a fairly good job of it, and then a few years ago, then Governor Gregoire vetoed the part that gave it any teeth. So the prosecutor in this county, and in most counties, has basically said, don't bring me any marijuana cases, even if they're growing cases, store cases, because I won't prosecute them, because the law is too unclear. So right now, there is no regulation. In theory, there could be zoning regulation, but they're not even doing that. That's not something we would do.
Right.
It's just, until they change state law, we're gonna have these green crosses sprouting up everywhere.
I have a couple more issues.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
On that, well, it's
time
kind
do
it's related to the social services and law enforcement working together. And we
Okay.
understand that with Deputy Chivington, that now we're going to have the LEAD program in this area.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's
And
correct.
how is that going to work, and how is it working?
LEAD is law enforcement assisted diversion. It's a great program, because what it does, it allows a deputy to arrest someone for possession of hard drugs, heroin, meth, cocaine, or someone that's selling low quantities of those same drugs, and give them the opportunity right then and there to get into treatment. And it started out with a $500,000 grant from the Ford Foundation, started in Belltown and downtown Seattle. It's been expanded. City of Seattle has put in another $1.4 million, and we've kind of piggybacked on this program. Take them down, we can take them downtown, there's a bed for them, there's social workers there that will get them, hopefully work to get them housing, get them a job, treatment, all those kinds of things that they need. What's different about this is it's up to the detective, the deputy, to make that decision. The person has to agree to go right then, and the deputy has to think this person is a good subject for that. Now, what happens when it doesn't work? Well, we have a couple of options. We can look the other way, take them down again at another night, or we can go ahead and charge them, send those cases down to the prosecutor's office. This is really a remarkable new way of attacking the drug problem. Because again, what we've done forever has not worked. We started it up the first time the sheriff's office used it was up in Skyway. I won't say it didn't succeed, because it did. There just wasn't a whole lot of clients for it up in Skyway. But it's still being used up there, and we've expanded it now to White Center. Have you had the training, Julian?
I have not had the training, sir, but I've made the recommendation.
Yeah, so you will get the training here very shortly. Very simple to do, you just need to know the parameters for it. City of Seattle, SPD is using it, and really had some pretty good successes with it.
And so does that include public inebriation?
No, but what they're talking about is expanding the drug aspect of it to probably to prostitution and maybe some other low-level crimes. They're still kind of up in the air on that, but not public inebriation.
And who's the they? If we wanted to follow up on that.
There is a board that meets quarterly, kind of a director board. I'm on the board. Dan Satterberg's on the board. It's really quite interesting because it's a partnership between the prosecutor's office, the police, some social service agencies, and the public defender's office. I like to say it's like lions lying down with lambs, but it's really more like lions lying down with tigers, and all agreeing on the same thing. This hasn't happened before. This is unheard of, to have all those agencies working together towards the same conclusion. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I preach that if anybody sees somebody breaking the law or suspected breaking the law, call 911. Even if you can't send out a deputy, at least that gives you a report that you can use to beat the county council to death with when you get a chance.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And the question I normally get is, well, what number should I call? It's not really an emergency. Well, we have the 911. Everybody knows about 911. We have a non-emergency number, 296-3311. Don't write that down. Let me explain how that works. We have people at our communication center in Renton, and they sit there waiting for the phone to ring. I'm exaggerating slightly. They have a phone in their left hand. That's the non-emergency number. They have a phone in their right hand. That's the 911 person call. Same person. So if you call 911, she or he picks up the phone with their right hand and takes the call. If it's a non-emergency number, he picks the phone up in his left hand. Now, what's the difference? If it's 911, we get money from the state. If it's the other phone that rings, we don't get any money. Well, I want you to call the 911. Now, what if they're busy? Either phone, they will say, well, is this an emergency? No. Okay, we're going to put you on hold. We'll get to you as soon as we can. But your point is absolutely right. We want to know what's going on. And so if there's any doubt in your mind at all, if you see a crime, if you think there's a crime, call 911. Your gut tells you if something's not right, right? I could drive through your neighborhood and I'd have no idea what was going on. You would know immediately because you know your neighborhood. Call 911.
Just follow up on that. And I don't know how this can be done, but maybe the sheriff's department can be part of it. I talk to many people. I work in a hardware store, talk to numerous people. People say, I got robbed, I got my car broken, blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, you call 911. Oh, no, I don't. People just, it's hard to get people, so you guys at least know what's going on. I try to say there's a pattern, maybe there's one person or two people involved, and boy, let me tell
You have no idea what we know, what we're working on, so we want to hear about that. Absolutely. Because you can go online, if you don't want to call 911 with many crimes, you can go online and just report it that way. So we get the statistics for it, we know what's happening, we can, we have a crime analysis downtown that look at this on a regular basis. But we need to know. You've all seen it on TV, there's a pin map. You put those little pins in there, you find out where the crimes are coming from. Now we have electronic pins, but it's the same idea.
If I may recommend, this police academy Citizens Police Academy, which is great, and the 911.
Yep, the 911 Academy.
That was really great, and an eye-opening.
Yeah, the 911 Academy, you can go to that. It's a 8-hour class, very, very interesting. And then there's the Citizens Police Academy. I think it's 10 weeks, and we do those a couple times a year that you can go to as well. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
Back to funding and
Okay.
the budgets. So it's a 2-year budget that was just passed.
Yep.
What if the property values go way up and the taxes go way up next year? Do you have a way to say, hey, you've got more money, help me down?
You know my personality. What do you think? Yes, they will adjust the budget probably a couple times, or at least maybe 3 times in this 2-year period. So yes, we do. We have a way of doing that. Obviously, Dow Constantine, because he runs the budget, is going to not be happy with that. But if we have to do that, we have to do that, and I will do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sir,
I assume you've heard of the BOG,
the bog?
Bog Center Neighborhood Plan.
Yes, sort of.
Across
So I bring it up,
East Park.
yeah,
Okay.
I bring it up just to make sure that you're aware that there's the block between Roxbury and 98th is notorious. It's the wetlands area there. And I know the police department, that's not their bailiwick specifically, sheriff's department, but we have a lot of trouble with people going there, doing drugs, camping out. I just want to make sure we're,
Okay.
I know Deputy Shivington's okay.
Okay. And Captain Bull is, I'm sure.
I don't know if you were at the last meeting, that was a topic at last month's meeting,
Yes.
was the parks
Yeah,
project.
that's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions?
I have.
Maybe I should just stand behind you. Back to you.
Right. And I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the makeup of the police department in Ferguson
Yep.
and I'm wondering what kind of anti-racism, cultural awareness, white privilege kind of training do the officers have, 1? And 2, in the wake of Ferguson and the protests and what's been happening in the Seattle area as well, and the past history of King County Sheriff's Office and abuses there, is there any action that you're taking? Are there any thoughts that you're having around that, like personal cameras or additional training, or social distance? Removing social distance among people of different cultures is a great way to break down barriers. And you said the beat cop, but can you share some of what you're thinking about is helpful for King County in that regard?
Wow. Where do I start? We train our officers in the academy. It's called Procedural Justice at the State Police Academy. And the essence of that is how you treat people. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white or Asian or whatever it is. It's how you treat people. We really work very hard on doing that. As far as racial profiling and any allegations of that, we watch it very closely. We discipline for it. We train against it. We do that on a regular basis. What we can't train away is whatever inside someone. Somebody asked me at a meeting at some point, I can't even remember when, is there racial profiling inside the sheriff's office? Do we racially profile people? Of course. Of course we do. Do we train against it? Yes. Do we discipline when we find out about it? Do we talk about it? Yes. But I can't change whatever's in somebody's mind. I can't do that. We'll never do that. The only thing that is going to help that, I think, is as old cops like me age out. We have a whole new generation of people coming up that think differently than we do, than I do, than these officers do, I think. Not that we're bad, but it's what's inside. It's I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's that implicit bias that we all have. It's not just cops. You all have it as well, I guarantee it. But I look at my daughters. My daughters now are 28 and 31. Grew up, their ideas of things are so much different than mine were at that point in time. And I get really discouraged sometimes. I get impatient because things aren't changing fast enough in society. And I stop and I think, and we should all do that. Think about this right now, today. We have legalized marijuana. We have marriage equality. We have a black president. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think those things would happen in my lifetime. Much less in the last 2 years, basically, or Obama 6 years ago. I mean, that's huge, huge change in our society. So I think we are getting better, and I'm doing the best I can to change my police department, or at least bring my police department along. And the people that we hire, the attitudes that they have, I watch them very, very, very closely. Do everything I can to do that. The biggest change to policing, just general police work, I think, in 40 years, is this right here. I don't mean the cell phone, I mean the camera that's inside it. Look at the Eric Garner case in New York City and what that did. It's everywhere, it's all over, and it has changed police work, or at least it's changed how the public sees police work. Public sees it on the 6 o'clock news, they see it online before that, and they're not always real happy with what they see. And that means we have to change how we do things, and we have to realize that we are being watched by everybody all the time. You mentioned body cameras. If I could put body cameras on every single one of my patrol officers tomorrow, I would do it. And I can do that over the next 5 years for about $5 million. $5 million in hardware and $5 million in software to be able to download that every night up to the cloud. But if I wanted to do that, that $5 million was probably going to be $20 million because of the public disclosure laws in this state. I won't take, if somebody handed them to me free right now, I'd turn them away because of the public disclosure laws and the people that request all of our camera footage. I've got, 400 patrol officers maybe, 400 patrol officers working 24 hours a day. A body camera would be on 24 hours a day. Do the math. Is there something bigger than terabytes of data? And then we have privacy laws. Do we want to just hand over to some guy that wants to put all this on YouTube, a crime scene, or a domestic violence victim, or somebody inside somebody's house? No, they have rights as well. Until we can figure out a way to either edit that video before we hand it out via public disclosure, or limit how much we have to give up, they're just not going to work. I talked to Frank Straub the other day. He's the police chief in Spokane. He has 17 cameras on a trial program. He said 3 weeks into the program, he got a public disclosure request for every single piece of video that they had on those 17 cameras. He can't afford to give it up. Can't afford to do it. It'll bankrupt his police department. He can't wait to get rid of those damn cameras. And yet, it will be huge for us to have cameras on every single officer. It will make sure that they're doing the right thing, but just as importantly, make sure the people we are dealing with behave appropriately. Rialto, California, they've got a huge body camera program down there. Their complaints against officers dropped by 67%. Because people's behavior changes. Ours change and yours change as well. So when time goes on, as we go forward, that's going to make a huge difference. Yes, sir.
Isn't there something in the HIPAA law that would help protect those?
No, HIPAA has nothing to do with that at all.
But it's a privacy thing, isn't it?
But HIPAA is only medical information that comes from a doctor, a nurse, or a hospital. It doesn't affect police, doesn't affect body cameras at all.
Counselors.
But people have a right to privacy under the state constitution. How do you decide that? It's not that they have that right, it's who's going to sit there and look at that video, we got to take that out of there. And then have the software to be able to do that. That's probably the easiest thing. It's the time to do it that's so difficult. Because if you've got 400 officers 24 hours a day, if they want all, and that's what we're getting. We're getting public disclosure requests for all of it. You've got to have that same 400 people 24 hours a day looking at all that video and bleeping out, blurring people's faces, and take out the dead bodies, take out the kids, take out the people that don't want to be on there, don't want it plastered all over YouTube, and they have a right to do that. So this will happen eventually, I'm convinced of that. But there's some changes that need to be made first. Yes, sir?
So how do you guys, what's the difference? I mean, I definitely understand like that a camera on the body
Yeah.
of a police officer is gonna gather much more data, but how do you guys control now the dash cam cameras, for example?
Very easily. First of all, we have very few dash cameras. Secondly, dash cameras are not in somebody's bedroom.
Well,
They're
yeah,
not-
that for sure.
So and they're only turned on when you turn on the overhead lights.
Okay.
So the amount of information is so much smaller. But it's still very, very difficult to go through. We still have to go through it, or we're supposed to. And we have so few cameras now that we're going to just limit their use, because we've got Mr. Anonymous, that's the name he uses, did the same thing to Seattle Police Department, doing it to us now, wants all of our camera video. It just, you have to pay for it, you know, and we don't have the money, you have to pay for it, and it's not working. So, but it will someday.
It's a
Yes, sir.
thought baking around in my head here, but I'll throw it out. To do a wiretap on a person's phone, or,
Yep.
I mean, of course, there's issues to that with NSA now and stuff, but there is a requirement, basically, that somebody get permission before they.
Not permission, it's a search warrant, basically.
Yeah, a warrant.
Yes, a warrant.
Yeah, I mean, my idea is there could be a similar thing where a people's committee allowed a warrant to request information from you.
And what they have to do is they
But still allow it.
and actually, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs has a bill that they're going to try to get entered into the legislature in 2015 that limits how much information can be released and to whom.
Yeah.
Only on the video stuff,
The
not in
key to
general.
it working would be independent citizens board of some kind evaluating it.
Yep.
I'm not saying whether it's a legitimate request or not.
Anything else?
Yeah, one more, I'm going to segue into with this camera thing. On Roxbury, you've got a church and school, and when the school gets out, the blinking light's go on, and there's road cameras, speed trap
Yep.
cameras. I'm not sure how you refer to them as. And on 102nd, from pretty much 15th all the way up the hill to 8th or so, I see families and children and school kids, and they're all going down to Steve Cox Park, or they're going down to the laundromat or the store, or what have you. And that road is like a freeway on-ramp. And I want to know if, back to budget, or when they get a ticket, does that go into your coffers?
No. Everybody thinks, oh, the cops are just out writing tickets because they need more money. We don't get one dime of that at all.
Wow.
And speaking of those school zone cameras, Speed Trap is a great name for them, because I got one and it cost me $124 in my police car over in Issaquah. And I've been over there speaking to the high school. No good deed goes unpunished.
So who gets the money? Like,
It goes to the some goes to the state, some goes to the court, some goes into the general fund. But none of it comes to us one item, not a penny. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. We appreciate it.
Nice to see everybody.